Welcome to episode 8 of the Fantasy Show with Amanad Carney.
Evan Garber.
And today we're going to talk about fantasy's overperforming and underperforming players. And then we're not going to show you our league. We will do that once in a while. But today it's just going to be talking about players who are overperforming and underperforming pretty much quarter of the way through the season. Right off the top of your head, what player do you think we'll go with overperforming first. So like a player who is doing really well to start the season.
Yes, I'm gonna go with Curtis Samuel. He's been the main target over there in Washington, and I think that's gonna slow down a little bit. I mean, we've seen now that Terry McLaurin had a pretty good week last week, so he's gonna be a bigger part of the offense starting coming up soon. And also Jahan Dotson, he's becoming a pretty big part of the offense too. Carson Wentz likes to throw, so maybe he'll just throw to all three of them and they'll all go off every single week. But I think that Curtis Samuel will slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and personally as a Panthers fan, I was so sad to see Curtis Samuel go because Robbie Anderson had the decent season with the Jets and then pretty much fell off with the Panthers. But an underperformer for me is DJ Moore. Like, Baker Mayfield, obviously new QB, new system. I mean, I'm a Panthers fan. I'm keeping it as unbiased as possible. DJ Moore needs the ball. Like, what is Baker Mayfield doing? I know he's trying to figure out the offense. McCaffrey needs more receptions because one of his weapons, one of his talents was being a dangerous receiving running back and a dangerous, obviously, rusher. And, I mean, Mayfield is like distributing the ball everywhere, but DJ Moore is your wide receiver one. This is the most weapons you've pretty much had in your career with Moore, McCaffrey, Anderson, and obviously yourself. And then, I mean, you even had OBJ and Jarvis Landry. You didn't pass it to OBJ, who I'm pretty sure was the wide receiver one, alongside Jarvis Landry. But now you have a clear wide receiver one, and that wide receiver one isn't producing because you weren't passing him the ball. And so I think part of DJ Moore struggling is Baker Mayfield because he needs to pick it up. He was my wide receiver two before I traded him away in a package, but he's definitely got to pick it up if he wants to keep that wide receiver one spot or, yeah, just pretty much keep that wide receiver one spot because he still is the wide receiver one, and I'm not sure what's going to happen because the Panthers are 1-2 beating the Saints somehow, but we'll see what happens with DJ Moore and overperformers. I mean, I don't think it's going to cool down, and I'm very impressed with this quarterback. He is your guy, Jalen Hurts. And people knew he was going to be good. You knew he was going to be good, but not this good, to be honest. The Eagles are looking like a dangerous team, and I saw a tweet like the country is not ready for an Eagles-Bills Super Bowl just because of the Bills Mafia and then Philly sports fans. That would be such an insane Super Bowl if that happened. And, I mean, the Dolphins, there is kind of some uncertainty with Tua. Like, so many people have doubted him, continue to doubt him. I am a somewhat believer in Tua, but before we form predictions, conclusions, I feel like we need to be like 6-7 games through the season. Like, people writing off the Titans just because they were 0-2. They're 1-2 now. Even the Raiders in their stacked division, personally, I don't know if they'll make it into the playoffs. They might squeak into the wild card spot. I believe they're not going to struggle, but their one downside is playing in the division that they're in. But with that said, that doesn't mean the season's over. You still got like 14 games remaining. And just recognize the Titans are in a weak division. Their season was never over after losing the first two games. And, I mean, the Dolphins could cool off. I do think the Bills are going to win that division. The Bills are my Super Bowl pick. But a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl early in the season, if you are calling it right now, isn't a bad prediction. What would you say? Because the Eagles are a very dangerous team. And I'd go as far as to say the best team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that pick. I think that they're clearly the two best teams in the league right now, despite the record not showing it. Um, I mean, we saw the first game, the Bills absolutely just destroyed the Rams. And, I mean, teams are going to lose games. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
But the Bills, they have one of the best teams I think I've ever seen on paper.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles, like, even they have one of the best teams on paper too. And it was all dependent on Hurts. If Hurts was going to be that guy this season, which he has been that guy, and he, like I said, I'm just really happy, honestly, because I'm huge fan of both Jalen Hurts and Tua. So I'm really happy to see them both doing really well.
Yeah, and so I gave you overperformer. Who is your underperformer in fantasy that we haven't mentioned so far through this episode?
I mean, I think I gotta go with Russell Wilson.
Ooh.
I made a pretty bad trade, it looks like now, trading away Lamar Jackson, because I thought that Russell Wilson was still going to be that guy.
Yeah.
But so far through the season, he hasn't shown that. The Broncos' offense has been very bad. And I think that it's the play calling, honestly, I think is what it is. And obviously Russell Wilson, he's still trying to adjust to the play style there in Denver, and he's still probably trying to adjust to Mile High City and everything, and there's a lot going on in his head.
Yeah.
But I think that the play calling is where it lies. I think that if they take more shots down the field, they'll definitely be a lot better offense.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just looking at their schedule on my phone. They're playing the Raiders. I cannot imagine the Raiders going 0-4. Like, it's already a shock they're 0-3. I cannot imagine the Raiders going 0-4. They are playing, like you said, a struggling Denver defense, and I mean, I have it on my phone right now. I'll just read out the trade. So you traded. This is the first mistake, the biggest mistake. You traded Lamar Jackson, Leonard Fournette, DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Cooks, and Pat Freiermuth. And you got Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, Dawson Knox, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Najee Harris. I'm pretty sure you were targeting, correct me if I'm wrong, is you obviously thought Russell Wilson was going to do better, but you also wanted Najee Harris as a running back. But now the 2 weeks since you traded Lamar Jackson, he's pretty much put up 40 fantasy points in each week. Like, I mean, Lamar Jackson's just on another level. I think it's him and Josh Allen comfortably in the MVP race early on in the season. And, I mean, you could put Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp in there as well. But Josh Allen, I mean, I guess throw in Jalen Hurts in there too. Believe it or not. But, I mean, Russell Wilson, man, the struggles in Denver are real. And it was the first game of the season, but the uncertainty started with, all right, you're paying Russell Wilson a lot of money. He's getting up there in age. But to be honest, to me, it was worth it. My brother called the Broncos in the Super Bowl, and obviously it can still happen because luckily they're 2-1. But Nathaniel Hackett, you pay your quarterback damn near $50 million a year or something like that, some crazy number, and you go for like a 60-something yard field goal instead of trusting Russell Wilson, one of the clutchest quarterbacks we have ever seen, to go 5 yards. And if it's not converted, it's not going to be on you. You made the right decision. No one was expecting you to go for a 64-yard field goal or something like that. But then after that, you beat the Texans, you beat the Niners. The Niners are a Super Bowl contender. And then the Texans, that's just when we saw all the struggles, like 16-9. Like it's not even like it was defensive. It's just struggling offense, Russell Wilson, and I mean, I'll go with another underperformer from the same team, Javonte Williams. Like he did drop like I think 15 or 16 points week 1, but then it's just been 9 the following weeks. And well, scores like that. I remember I was targeting Javonte Williams, but now he's cooled off, along with Russell Wilson, along with the Broncos offense. Cortland Sutton has benefited from all this somehow. Jerry Jeudy's been doing decently too. But, I mean, just a lot of uncertainty, more thoughts to come in future episodes about the Broncos, I'm sure. But overperformer, I don't think you can call Kups and Diggs overperformers, to be honest, because, I mean, they're just those guys. I don't know what else to say. They're him, whatever you want to call it. They're just simply, they're on another level right now in terms of receivers. Both had technically a down week in fantasy, although 14 and 16 points is good for some receivers. But what do you think about Kupp and Diggs in fantasy?
I mean, I think we all knew that they were going to be some of the top wide receivers. I mean, Kupp was a lock in the first round, lock top 5 in most drafts, it seems like. And with the way that they use him in Los Angeles, it's bound to happen. Like every single throw is always to him. They're always looking at him every single play. I don't think there's one play where he's not the first option.
Exactly.
So he's for Kupp first, and then whoever else second. And then I think the same goes with Diggs, but I think Gabriel Davis, I think he can be a big part of the offense when necessary. So I think that does hurt Diggs' value a little bit. But yeah, Josh Allen definitely looks for Stephon Diggs most of the time. But Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox, they're not bad either. And they're also a decent part of the offense, but most of it goes to Diggs.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you could call this an underperformer per se, but definitely the last 2 weeks, because when you were mentioned to be one of the best receivers after week 1, the MVP race after week 1, early in the season and everything, Justin Jefferson, man, where is he? Just disappeared the past 2 weeks. And, I mean, I don't know, like, Kirk Cousins' prime time, I feel like, looking at the record, that tells you a lot. Like, it's just such a confusing stat, but it's true. Like, he has obvious shortcomings in prime time. I mean, that Vikings-Eagles game, what was that? 3 straight possessions. The Eagles picked it off. Like, what are we doing, Kirk Cousins? You got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. You even got Irv Smith. You got Dalvin Cook. And, oh my God, that was atrocious. And I feel like I'll mention another one, and you can give your opinion on it. What do you think about Kyle Pitts? Other than last week where he did pick it up, but the first couple weeks, Kyle Pitts was non-existent.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because he's clearly the number 1 target, at least you would think, in Atlanta, and Marcus Mariota loves to throw the ball. But I think that they decided to use Patterson a lot more than we expected. We saw Patterson have a great start to the season last year, and then he cooled off completely. You might say that again this year, but I think better days are coming for Pitts. I think Pitts is going to go off now, especially after that performance in Week 3.
Yeah, and I mean, Drake London has also been doing decently in fantasy as well, but now we'll wrap up episode 8, I believe, of the fantasy show with Amanad Carney and Evan Garber. Make sure to follow us on all the social media platforms on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Apple and Spotify, or listening to it rather, then Twitter, Instagram, TikTok for our shorts. More shorts will primarily be on TikTok, occasionally on YouTube, but Tune into the shorts, tune into the episodes. Have a great week, and see you later.